let's chat about the other game earlier in the week then. Saints keeping a clean sheet at last, keeping the manager in a job as well. 1-0, the win away at Bournemouth. It was ugly at times, Glenn, wasn't it? But it was kind of win or bust. We had to win that one. So it was always going to be ugly.
Yeah, we not got the Bournemouth lad coming on this time. No, he didn't fancy it.
He's busy tonight.
Oh, well, surprise. Yeah, it was ugly. Yes, it was. Second half, not a lot of football played in the second half, was there? We did enough. We got ahead, and in the second half, Ralph decided to again bring Lianco on and try to shut the game down. And we defended properly, and Bournemouth had nothing. They had nothing really. There was only one real alarm when Bazunu dropped the ball in the last sort of couple of minutes, but he kind of earned his luck there, I thought, with his performance, and Salisu whacked it away. So, I thought that was a good away performance. We got the early goal, got our noses in front, which I think we all thought was sort of important in this game, and I thought Bournemouth were largely terrible. They didn't really. They added nothing. Added nothing to the game.
You did predict that last week, though, to be fair, didn't you? You did say that.
I looked at their 6-game run that they've been on, and fair play, they've picked up the points, but there were 2 wins in there, and both of those were sort of come from behind victory, where against Leicester and Forest, where in both games the manager said, hang on, we were dominating. The opposition manager said we were dominating those games, and they've nicked it. So I didn't think Bournemouth would be great, but I was surprised quite how flat they were. And bearing in mind they have won those 2 games coming from behind, I expected a real sort of Alamo effort in the last sort of 20 minutes or so. But there's
last 15, we managed that superbly.
Yeah,
I thought they barely had a kick.
Yeah, we just passed the rule around, and he wasn't great today. But Diallo, when he came on against Bournemouth, was superb. He just knocked the ball, ran it out of defence, and it just seemed like they couldn't get near him or anyone else. Stuart Armstrong had really good impact when he came on as well. We just having a couple more players comfortable on the ball, and we just passed it and saw out that game relatively comfortably, which, as long-standing fans of Saints will know, we're not usually very good at that. So it was comfortable. And apart from that time when Bazunu dropped the ball, I was relatively confident that we were going to get to the end and win that. And I was never worried about Dominic Solanke, whatever Jacob might say about that. So yeah.
What was the sense of relief like at the end, Alfie, with the win and the clean sheet? I mean, it was nervy in the second half, and it's fine margins, but the substitutions paid off. He got Lianco on at the right time, and it had to be a win, and he got it done.
Yeah, I think that probably is the biggest thing in just relief, because although it was a good away win, I don't think it was a particularly brilliant performance. It wasn't particularly inspiring. They were dealing with a lot of injuries and issues, but I mean, the way they played, Ralph set himself up for, had they not won that game, there would have been so many questions. Going 5 at the back, or 8 or 9 at the back from 60 minutes. Bringing the defenders on. I mean, I was really surprised to hear that some supporters were chanting "sacked" in the morning when Lianco came on, even though Southampton were winning 1-0.
Did you hear it? I always question these things, because it only takes one microphone to pick up a couple of people. I could hear it, and I wasn't sure whether that was the Bournemouth fans, whether it was our fans. But
there was no noise from the Bournemouth fans all night, so it could only have come from our end.
No, I could hear it. The Southampton fans were the opposite side of the ground to me, but I could hear it. And like you say, I wasn't sure where it was coming from at first, but I think it obviously was from the Southampton fans. But he set himself up for that, didn't he, ultimately? Because to play so defensive against a team like Bournemouth, yes, they're unbeaten in 6, but we could see they had nothing to offer, really. So to then get the result was a relief, and typically they go for the celebrations and they lock hands and do the bow and whatnot, and you can gloss over it now, can't you? Because now they've had another good performance in the tank. They've got another point. You can move on from the fact that it wasn't a footballing miracle. It was 3 points away from home, but they've got it. They needed it. He's still in the job, and there's enough credit in the bank now for Ralph that the next few weeks there's no debate about that.
Yeah, there was a few standout players for me. I think Coletta Carr was one. I thought obviously Diallo, Maitland-Niles as well. I thought was all right, Steve.
Yeah, very good. And that was kind of the performance we were, I think, hoping for when he first came in, and I think he looked a little bit all at sea his first couple of appearances, but. Yeah, I mean that was excellent. He retained possession well. He knew when to lay it off, when to keep hold of it. And I mean, ultimately, that's something that that Prowse could probably learn a lesson from, based on the majority of his performances this season. But yeah, he was very good. I mean, let's be brutally honest. It wasn't up against much. I mean, he's up against the collective might of Lewis Cook and Jefferson Lerma. It's not like he's up against De Bruyne and Rodri, is it? But
£60 million worth of midfielders there.
Yeah, you can only put you only do it against
what they paid for them.
Yeah. I think it's like 50, but yeah.
Do it against what you're up against, and it's a good sign. It gives us options, and we know that Maitland-Niles is quite versatile and can play probably 4 positions, I think. Probably right back, both the 2 sort of pivot positions, and you could probably play him on the wing as well, I reckon, because he played there quite a lot in his early days at Arsenal. So he gives us a lot of options. So even if you've got fitness worries in other parts of the field compared to where you would ideally like to play, you can still kind of shoehorn him into the team and not disrupt the balance too much. So I think he's going to be very, very important going forward, and especially once we get restarted after Christmas, because those games are going to come thick and fast. It's going to be absolutely mental when we're playing a game every 3 or 4 days for 3 weeks to start. Just to sort of restart the season again. Everybody's going to be getting injured. Those first few games are going to be a weird pace, because I think teams are going to try and race out the blocks, but then the reality of the situation will kind of hit, and you'll have a number of games over that period that are just going to be terrible spectacles. And it's going to be about, the key is going to be who's got kind of the strength to reposition players in their team, to kind of maximize the sort of limited amounts of energy that everybody's got. And I think, as I say, Maitland-Niles is going to be a key player in that, because, as I say, he can play multiple positions. Elyounoussi today showed that he can play 2 or 3. So he's going to be a useful option as well. Even Diallo was okay today. I thought he retained the ball a lot better than he did in his previous start at home. And so that kind of bodes well, I think, for going forward. And if we can get Lavia back quickly, I mean, if he's back before the break, then great. If not, kind of you can kind of live with 3 more games, I think, in this sense. Then yeah, I think we're looking all right. The only issue at the end of the day is, and it's been our issue for a while, is goal scoring.
Yeah.
We need to find a solution, whether that is somehow developing one of our current strikers to suddenly be able to score 15 goals a season, or whether that is by signing somebody in January. Then, so that's got to be addressed. I mean, I still think we can be relatively safe in this division without that this season, simply because there's so many really bad teams. There's a whole lot of dross in this division this year, and I do wonder whether this is now kind of the natural sort of end point for where the financial side of things in the game has got so mad and so sort of stretched, where now you've got a top 6 who have got so many more resources than everybody else, Newcastle aside, that because those top teams are able to stockpile everybody. Everybody else, the quality is just so diminished now. So while the games against each other are interesting in terms of there's a story in the games, and the games are always well fought, the actual quality level has been pretty poor from a lot of what I've seen. I mean, even just the games this week, a lot of those midweek games were really bad games of football, ours included.
Yeah, it's hard to disagree with that for sure.